I mean, he said something famously about a year before he died at that trial where they were looking into part of his syndicate in terms of the you know, before the mafia, but he had like, a little banking syndicate that he was running. Basically, they asked him, what's a better measure of a man's wealth? Is it his property or his money? And J.P. Morgan was like, it's neither, it's character. Because somebody that I don't trust is never going to get a dollar from me. It's like he had all of the money in the world, and it's all about trust for him because he's. We live. Back at it.
In cold.
Dude, it is freezing out here, actually.
Michigan. It is freezing.
But you hear some of the snow crunching in the car.
Yeah, but that's winter for you, baby.
Yeah.
That's winter for you. That's where you toughen up and you find out what you're made of.
In the beautiful state of Michigan. I'm thankful that we actually have seasons here.
I know.
It's
man.
not just
it's
like
a highlight. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. What's new in Constance, Jake?
Founders Drive this week. We got new constants. So this week we are adding in a couple of different things.
Ooh, talk to me.
We are adding in a brand new social links page in terms of allowing you to define which links you want as your, kind of like the main ones, and then any custom links additionally. Letting you customize that little mini website we have for you with those.
A lot of that is like just UI UX improvements on the whole process, configuring your page, but then also how it's displayed, how it's loaded in, all those stuff.
We added a couple new ones, TikTok, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like the small things that you notice it. You don't notice it when it's there, but when it's not there, you're like, this feels like a slow, shitty experience.
Yeah.
So we definitely have some tune-ups there. What else do we have? Some updates to the whole calendar experience.
Yeah, so allowing users to get on there and use their own calendars to book meetings. So it completely, brings it within your own wheelhouse. If you want to use your calendar, you can. If you don't want to, we also provide that as well. So
yeah, and a big important part of that is just making sure that we stay in sync with what you're scheduling on Constance and what's going on your calendar. Right. We have paid consultations available on Constance, and so if somebody's scheduling a paid consultation, a paid coaching session, a paid webinar, you want to make sure that that's also recognized on your main calendar.
Yep.
Especially if you are just kind of getting into just using Constance and it's not the automatic hack right away. So that's something that I think is a step improvement, and it should definitely be of use for people that are operating in those spaces, particularly situations where you might get booked and where you might want to sell your time.
100%.
Giving a little bit of an overview for what Constance is. Constance is a platform designed for early entrepreneurs, people that either are looking for work and can't find work. You might be a young kid or somebody that just left college that's looking to get your professional experience. We've been there before where they're saying, we need 15 years of experience. And you're like, well, I just graduated, and 15 years ago, I was like 6. So I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Or the technology is only 10 years old.
Right?
But you want 15 years.
And so, exactly. And so we experienced that when we were entering the workforce, but it's just exacerbated now with the current climate of AI and how that's affecting the economy, companies, and jobs.
Yep.
Another person that might be in the wheelhouse of one of these early entrepreneurs is somebody who just got laid off and has plenty of experience, has plenty of knowledge, has plenty of insights that you've gathered over the course of your lifetime and your career.
Yeah.
But you're no longer in a job that can pay you for it. Constance is a great either transition point or landing point for somebody who fits that description. But then another person that we found that it also is a great fit for is somebody who's just like, hey, I want to explore entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I want to do it as a side hustle. I want to explore how I can turn my creativity into cash, how I can turn my experience into earnings, how I can profit off of my passions. And that's a perfect lane for those types of people as well. So if any of those fit your profile, check us out on Constance. We're continuously updating the experience, making it better and better. It's tools that we use to prepare for podcasts like these and just all around in general. So yeah, check us out on constance.com. That's
Constance.com.
That's constance.com. And why don't we jump into it, man?
Yeah, obviously link going to be in the bio description here.
Yes.
But today's founder, this week's founder, really, someone who is still alive today. I have a credit card from them.
Yep.
But yeah,
I also have an account too.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
The one and only J.P. Morgan.
Yes. J.P. Morgan.
Some people may know, Chase.
Yeah.
The Chase Bank is J.P. Morgan and Chase.
J.P. Morgan and Chase.
From the Chase Manhattan.
Yeah,
banking.
man. It's one of those things. Again, it's a very established institution, especially in banking, specifically in banking.
Yes.
And I don't know how many of us know the history of not just J.P. Morgan and Chase institution, but the founder, J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, and the cool thing about J.P. Morgan and the fact that we've done other billionaires in the past, he was the first owner of $1 billion company in the U.S.
No kidding.
The
right?
first one.
The first unicorn.
Yes, exactly. Maybe not in growth, but he was able to get there. So, yeah, just looking back at his timeline, I mean, we're going to start in the early 1800s.
Yep.
Up until the early 1900s.
Yeah. So J.P. Morgan was born in 1837 to Junius, and I believe his mother's name was Juliet.
I know Julius was his father was a very well-known European banker, financier at the time. Helping other businesses get loans and helping them finance their businesses. So he was born into wealth. Yeah. Born into prestige.
Yeah. His father, I was listening, was was the successor of another banker who was looking for somebody of his father, Junius Morgan's mold. And he was looking for somebody that was in America that had like a family, was successful, but was also very, very precise and astute about the banking industry, and Junius fit that description. And that was a lot of that was carried over to J.P. Morgan because his father basically groomed him to fit this lineage and become his own successor. The thing about the Morgans that I picked up on is how much they were conscious, especially Junius, how much they were conscious of leaving a legacy that rivaled the Rothschilds or in those other famous, powerful families of that time.
Yeah, I think something that I noted when I was doing some of this research was the fact that his father, J.P. Morgan's father, did groom him to become a banker like himself, but they also were very concerned about being well connected in the space of business and stuff like that. Often throwing large parties, being able to meet and greet and rub elbows with all of the elite. And J.P. Morgan was a part of those, right? Especially in his early years. He attended a lot of these parties and began to rub elbows, and you kind of put a face to a name in some of these places. It kind of goes to show how powerful it really is, like networking, really.
So yeah, he was born to the famous Morgan family, which I didn't know was like esteemed in
the House of Morgan.
The House of Morgan. The House of Morgan.
That's how big they were.
Yeah, and he so he was born to that. His mother was Juliet Pierpont, and that's where the P stands for. As John Pierpont Morgan. I don't know why this random fact stuck with me, but he apparently didn't like being called John.
No, just Pierpont.
So, call me Pierpont.
Pierpont. Such a 1800s name.
I know, dude. There's no Pierponts around today.
Not really, no.
Right. So, but yeah, he was born to join Pierpont and the Morgans. And he ended up graduating that was in Hartford, Connecticut. So they were on the east of America. They loved like a lot of like the old New England type lifestyle. They were really fans of that and fans of like the old. They were really fans of the English. I know that he did some studies in Paris, and in Germany. Where he refined his French and his German and became, I guess, more cultured. His father sent him there. Pierpont, we're sending you to...
He also got sent away to a little more of like a tropical climate because he was a really sickly child. And so his dad was like, yeah, maybe some better climate would help you out. And I think it took him about a year to recover from some of this childhood illness, and then went right back into school, but kind of shows you some of the tactics they would use back in the 1800s to be like, oh, you're sick? Go on vacation.
Yeah, that was that is interesting. But his sickness, I guess it affected his like nose and his appearance, and he was very standoffish about that later in life.
Oh, he absolutely hated it, and I would too, right? But it also added to him eventually becoming a very intimidating figure.
Yeah, the way that he carried himself. So he graduated from the English High School of Boston, started working at his father's banking firm in 1857.
About 20 years after he was born, yeah.
J.S. Morgan and Co. in London. So the Morgan family had several offices, America,
internationally, which is kind of wild.
Europe, I think one in Paris, I can't remember the other location. But nonetheless, it was like that's where he immediately went into after his studies.
Yep.
He returned to the U.S. to join the firm in New York in 1860.
Which, after only a couple years, his dad was like, yeah, okay, you're good to go back to the U.S. Because they were in London, went back to the U.S. And then while he was in the U.S., his main role was like, I'm going to let my dad know about everything happening here.
Yeah.
Politically and economically. So not just where's the money going, but also like who's the president, who's the party, right? Like you would think, and obviously they needed to be connected. And so that was kind of the role.
Yeah, and this was like a different time, just to be very clear.
Yes.
Slavery was still legal. We weren't even close. This is 1837 when he was born. So this is 1860. This is right on the precipice, actually, of the Civil War.
10 years,
Yeah. And he, but the reason why I bring that up is communications weren't like they are today.
Yeah, you can't send a text message.
Yeah, and like, oh man, this is what's happening.
Or even an email.
Or just keep up with what's going on in, America or in a different continent.
Right.
By watching TV.
Or X.
Right? So so much was different then. But that's what he did. He sent his son over there. He said, be my eyes on the ground. And 2
days a week he would write letters back.
Oh.
I think he reserved 2 days a week. He was like, I'm just gonna write.
Right.
And just let them know, hey, like this is what's happening.
Yeah. Is there anything that came up in the content of those
I think it was a really cool like father-son moment where you can kind of just see the evolution of that happening. There was a report later on in life that his father really cherished those letters. Like really saw it as like, oh, my son's becoming a man, getting into his
coming to his own.
Yeah, exactly.
In contact.
And kind of getting out of the shadow of his father.
Yeah, his father was a very prominent banker and financier.
Yes,
and he was
well respected.
And he was also very like precise, but then also very what's the word I'm looking for? He was traditional in the way that he carried about business. Patient, slow, let's not rush into anything. I think there was a little bit of friction there with J.P. Morgan.
Yes.
And how he wanted to conduct business, but he did follow his father's suit, at least for the earlier parts of his career.
Yep.
And why not? I mean, if your dad's kind of doing his thing, then But okay, so 1864, founded his own banking firm with Anthony Drexel, called Drexel, Morgan and Company.
Yep.
71, forms the company Drexel Morgan Company, which later became J.P. Morgan and Company, establishing himself as the dominant force in banking in 1871.
I think there's a through line here in terms of partnerships. It's never just a single name on the board. It's almost always this person and this person, or there's two parties coming together. Something that J.P. Morgan did very, very efficiently throughout his life was the consolidation of power and the consolidation of entities under a single umbrella.
Yeah, no kidding. And we're definitely going to see more of that in the future. 1877 played a key role in rescuing the U.S. government by organizing a syndicate to refinance the government debt.
Oh, that was after the Civil War, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny, the one part about the Civil War that everyone kind of talks about that shows just how much money this guy was able to make.
Yeah.
Was the rifles. Did you read about that story at all? About the rifles?
I didn't read about
See, he bought rifles from the U.S. government at $3.50 a piece. He made a 75-cent adjustment to every single rifle, and then sold them back a month later to the same government.
I did hear about that.
For $22.
Yeah, and he got actually. So I do recall
a piece.
That. Yeah, and he got that's like a big controversial thing because people are like,
It's war profiteering.
Yeah, you're taking advantage of the war and you're making money off of it.
And not to mention the fact that the rifles weren't like the best. Like they weren't exactly tip-top shape because they were sold to him under the premise of like, we're not going to use these, they're too outdated, blah blah blah. And you know, going from a $3.50 plus 75 cents to a $22
markup
in 30 days just kind of shows you, what is that, like a 600% something increase?
Yeah,
like that's insane.
Well, wait, hold up, it was $3.50 75 cents adjustment.
Yes, yes,
25. Yeah, and then they sold that at 20 a piece
for 22.
Yeah, that's like 5x.
That's like,
yeah,
holy crap. That's a lot of money that you can just see, like the kind of entrepreneurship and, you know, the ability to make deals.
Yeah. Well, I would say to execute on leverage. I think the idea after that is like, well, should he have done it or not? That's a different question. But he's an opportunist. We will say that.
Exactly.
Yeah, he spotted the opportunity and he made that move accordingly.
And that's leverage.
But that was something that happened. That people didn't just let it slide. Like that was a big thing where people were like, hey. Yeah,
and they started getting a little spotlight on him, going, this guy is like war profiteering, which not a good public image, but
the concept of leverage, I think, is something that you can highlight right there.
And that is what I wanted to bring into the 1957? Or no, sorry, this was in the 70s, right, where he saved from the gold rush.
Yeah, the 1870s.
1870s, right, where the gold rush. The gold rush was insane. So the U.S. government, the dollar is backed by the gold standard, right? So every dollar you had, you could get a piece of gold for. You could walk in and say, I want $5 worth of gold for my $5 bill.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how they did it. And so people were like, okay, this paper, because people weren't used to paper, this paper is worth something because the bank over here is going to give me gold for it. And so the government decided, okay, just based on the currency we have, we'd like to keep about $100 million worth of gold in our reserves, just in case a large number of people come in and want to exchange. We'll always have enough in the reserves to make sure that, you know, the economy keeps running.
Yeah.
In this specific time, the gold reserves came down to $9 million, from $100 million down to $9. And that's because everybody and their mother was going through saying, give me my gold for this paper money.
Yeah.
They didn't really believe in it. And so...
It's so strange because now there is no gold standard, so...
Exactly. And so here's where the leverage comes in.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan met with the president at the time. And the president was going to say, okay, let's just sell bonds to the American public. And then we'll, you know, be able to refill our reserves from that money.
Yeah.
Morgan walked into the president's office and said, yeah, like, I heard through the grapevine you guys are down to $9 million in reserves. And I just happen to know of somebody who's going to the bank this afternoon with a $12 million check to cash out.
Yeah.
And so you guys are screwed. And so he used that leverage to basically say, like, yeah, like, I have a $12 million check that's going to come through. You guys will be underwater, and so you need my help. And so he was able to then broker an agreement to backfill the gold reserves with his banking friends in America and in London, the international people. And that, as soon as he got the handshake from the president, he had all the deals lined up. It only took him 22 minutes to refill their gold reserves.
22 minutes, huh?
Internationally, 22 minutes.
Insane.
To buy out everything they needed to refill those reserves.
It's the thing that sticks out to me, man, is
insane.
Like it was just a different time.
That's also true.
Yeah,
it's a very different time.
But and not even as a caveat, I just think it's something to marvel at is how different business was conducted, because the infrastructure that we have in place today is not the same as it was in the 1800s.
A lot of the things we have today are because of how these guys did business.
Yeah, they're like, hey,
we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Okay, but then it's also interesting to think about how, you know, things tend to come full circle. History tends to rhyme with itself. And so it's curious to think about, is there going to be another person of that magnitude that can affect the government like that? And that was like, hey, you guys need a loan.
That was a big thing in the day, like in the newspapers.
Yeah.
They would be like, why does this one person have this much power?
Yeah.
Why is this one person doing this?
We don't like this. We need to do something about that. But I mean, I guess, I don't know. Like he did, you know, bail, I guess, the government out.
He also profited handsomely from that deal.
Well, if you're going to bail the government out, I feel like we should. I mean, what we need to do right now is figure out a situation about our government, but that's another question.
Yeah, but it's a good question, right? Like at the level and the magnitude like we're talking about, like, I agree there should be some level of compensation, but I don't think there's any level of compensation where someone's going to say, oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's always going to be unfair. So it's just an interesting thing, something to think about in terms of, because JP, he didn't stop there.
No.
This was only the first time he bailed out the government. He went on to do it again, but there were some things that happened in between.
Yeah, of course. So then 1877, he played a key role in rescuing the U.S. government by organizing a syndicate of, so that was what you were talking about right
the
there.
gold bailout.
Yep. Consolidated several railroads in the Northeast, including forming the New York Central Railroad, marking the beginning of his major influence in the steel and railroad industries. That was in 1882.
The railroads were like the Wild West. You had some companies back in those days would find someone's railroad, right? So like we have a couple railroads here in Michigan, and they would build tracks right next to them. 5 feet away, right next to them, and they would run a train on those trails, and they would compete for service.
Yeah.
They'd say, "Oh, my rail's cheaper. It's right next to your rail, but my cars are going to be cheaper." And it was like that kind of just crazy competition that Morgan ended up taking advantage of.
At this point, cars weren't a thing.
Exactly.
Like we talked about this with Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Which around this time, this is like the late 1800s. This is about when the first automobiles started to
off the line,
to be made, and then. But yeah, it's very interesting that how people were competing and what people were competing on. It's like we're gonna set up a whole competitive railroad.
And most of that stuff was like, I'm just gonna go out there and do it. I don't need a permit to go build a railroad. Whereas now you would need all of that. I mean, there's zoning and stuff. Back then it was literally the Wild West, where it's like, yo, this is unclaimed land. We can build a railroad here.
So it goes in 1895. That's when the first financial panic happened, and that's when he lent the gold to the US Treasury to stabilize the dollar.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, before then, that was another situation where he was rescuing the government. Wow. Yeah. So the government was incompetent then,
for
like
it
is now. That's the theme that you should take away from here. No,
that's hilarious, actually.
Except the problem now is that we can't intervene.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so 1901, orchestrated the merger of several steel companies into US Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation, becoming its president.
He bought a majority of that from Andrew Carnegie for like $480 something million. Carnegie slid him a note over the desk that said, like, this is how much I'd like to get for my company. It was like $486 million.
He said, bet.
Yeah, no negotiation. Was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
All right, let's go.
Later, Carnegie remarked, he goes, I should have asked for another $100 million. And J.P. Morgan's like, I would have paid it. I 100%
probably should have asked for double. Like, come on now.
But this is another thing. Along with the railroads, now going into steel, Morgan is doing something that there was actually a term called, during his day, it was called like, Morganing a company, where he would just buy out all the competitors and then bring everything under one roof, under one control. And then he would basically have a monopoly. And that's how he liked to operate his businesses, as a monopoly.
I think there's a lot of remnants of that today. We see a lot of that today.
Everyone loves a monopoly if you can get one.
Well, it's industry in the way that like industry has grown to be in America.
Right.
We see that specifically in the tech companies today, with Meta and how many companies they've acquired and kind of put under that one roof.
Yep.
Especially big purchases. That's why this one seems really interesting, is because you're making a $500 million purchase in the 1800s.
No regulation.
Right. Well, but today it's like that's the equivalent of paying that billion for Instagram early on in Facebook's history, and then when they paid 20 billion for WhatsApp,
that's
what
true.
That looks like those were purchases when people made them. They're like, you're paying that much for that,
and you know how many eyes or like hands get to see that deal before it even goes through, versus back in the day it was like, I'm gonna slide you a note.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, we're good. You said it.
Handshake
like,
deal. You know.
Send over the 500. Send over the 500 mil. I know you're quick. I saw what you did with the U.S. government.
That is wild.
But yeah, that's it's just one of those things where it's like it's just a play that's been run over and over again. Just the mergers, acquisitions, and how that goes. Was he, and this is something that I'm not aware of, but was he the person that was doing that, like one of the first to do that in modern history, that aggressively?
At that scale, yes.
Okay.
Obviously they had like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, and the Carnegies, like kind of in that time period where really the Industrial Revolution was kind of taken off. But I would say at scale, yes. I mean, he had the first billion-dollar company. So at scale, yeah, I would say one of the first few, which gives us the rules and regulations we have today around monopolies and SEC control.
No kidding. All right, and then we have right here.
There she is.
1913, the Federal Reserve System was established partly as a response to the financial. Yeah. So then the Federal Reserve established. Partly
That was a year after he died, or roundabout,
and he died in 1913 as well too. So
right. Okay. So same year. I think it was after he died. Yeah, he died in Rome. And there's a couple of like things in here that we're definitely leaving out in terms of like the way he liked to do deals, in terms of like getting people on his yacht and then not docking the yacht until they made a decision, or like locking people in a library and then not letting them out until they made a decision,
which is insane.
It is kind of insane,
but it's also like when you think about how far people will go to make a deal happen.
Right.
This is something to pay attention to. Like, I think a lot of times it's like, hey, can we make a deal? No. Okay, we're done.
Right.
But then it's like, hey, I mean, he really understood intuitively, if not explicitly, the power of having leverage.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good theme that's coming across throughout his life is leverage. I also, like I said at the beginning, the networking, the connections that you have to be able to arrive in Washington D.C. and just be like, I'm gonna see the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm walking in.
How does that develop?
I think it's over time and doing business with a lot of people. I mean, he said something famously about a year before he died at that trial where they were looking into part of his syndicate in terms of the before the mafia, but he had like, a little banking syndicate that he was running. Basically, they asked him, what's a better measure of a man's wealth? Is it his property or his money? And J.P. Morgan was like, it's neither, it's character. Because somebody that I don't trust is never going to get $1 from me. It's like he had all of the money in the world, and it's all about trust for him because he's willing to give the money out. And famously had multiple times people would come to him and pitch ideas. And
Tesla's a big.
He would interrupt them and just be like, "Dude, shut up! What's the actual? How much money? How much money do you need?" And then stop the interview there and just give him the check. Obviously, it doesn't work with everything, and that was probably lower amounts. But
he was an early venture capitalist. One of the people that comes to mind is Tesla went to him and asked for money to fund a project that he was talking about, and then
Waldorf.
And he gave him the equivalent of $4.2 million today, which seems like a pretty like ambitious seed round. And it's just interesting to hear big names over history collide and intervene. But
the Tesla story is interesting too because there was a lot of promise. Tesla was a brilliant person working on AC, alternating current, with competing against Edison, which we'll do a founder's drive on. But it was interesting because J.P. Morgan actually pulled his funding from Tesla. Yeah, he did. When he learned that Tesla was trying to do it for free. Yeah. He was trying to give everybody wireless electricity for free.
He was like, whoa.
And he was like, I can't profit off of this. I'm going to pull up my funds. Very interesting in terms of because he probably would have done leaps and bounds for society if that technology went through, Yeah.
But he's like, in his banking mindset, he was like, I can't make sense of this on paper. That's not happening.
Yeah, which is interesting because another cool story around this is that he actually backed Edison for a long time, and that was actually a contention point with his father. When his house, the Morgan house, J.P. Morgan's house in New York, was the first house in the world to be lit with electricity. His father was like, yeah, that's the stuff for clowns and circuses. Like, what are you doing with this stuff? He thought it was speculative. Yeah. Obviously, electricity becomes non-speculative, but it's just interesting in terms of the story
and the viewpoints on things that we take to be so obvious today. Just they didn't have obvious back then. They were like, bro, we have candles. What are you wasting all this time on?
Yeah, we have lanterns. What do you mean?
Are you
a torch?
Are you trying to give away our fortune? It seems like it.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So some quotes that I have here that are pretty interesting. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll be able to see further. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah.
I really like that one. It's ties into the whole Dan Gilbert see, believe in you will see, which is honestly just a larger quote that's tied to like religious means and everything. But in this context of Founders Drive, something that was highlighted by Dan Gilbert, which is one of his isms. This is one of those things I like it because it's very action, like it's action oriented. It's not a command. Believe in you'll see. It's like, man, just go as far as you can see right now, and you'll be able to see further. Which is so obvious, but it makes sense.
Yes,
it makes sense because we stop a lot of times because we just can't see the future right now.
Which is like the analysis paralysis, you know.
The first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are.
Exactly.
Again,
action oriented,
and this thing seems so obvious, but
that's what good advice normally is, you know.
Yeah, that's very true. A man generally has two reasons for doing a thing: one that sounds good, and the real one.
Yeah, that's a little more honest, I'd say.
I think that's good to understand from multiple angles.
Yeah.
One being from yourself, like, okay, why am I doing this, and is there a deeper reason why? Asking the whole 5 whys.
Yes, to yourself.
Exactly. I think understanding people starts with understanding yourself, and anything that of this variety should start with yourself. But then I think it's really powerful in terms of negotiating, in terms of speaking and communicating to people that are outside of your company or your team. Specifically though with the negotiating aspect is understanding what people want. I think is really powerful. I heard this excerpt from Barbara Cochran.
Okay.
She was talking about Trump, and she was saying that he's the best negotiator that she's ever been around. She has this excerpt when Trump was talking or they were doing this deal. It was a prominent space in New York. I think it might have been off of Fifth Ave or Madison Ave, or like right at that intersection. Or if it is an intersection, we live in Detroit. but she was talking about how they had some people that owned the building, and there was her, Trump, and a few other people that were in the final stages of who's going to win this bid, and they're all bidding on the place. And she said that she went in with her pitch. It was the last round, and she was saying she was talking about the value that they could add, and that's what everybody else was doing, and Trump took it completely in a different direction. And after the night was over, they ended up liking Trump more and ended up giving him the contract, or he ended up having the winning bid, or I forget the particulars of the deal, but the main thing is that he was leveraging things outside of just the stuff on paper.
Yes. 100%.
He was finding out the real thing that these people wanted, and wasn't just staying at the surface level.
100%.
A lot of times we say things, but there's another thing that's sitting under there that's driving what we're saying. Yeah. And so this seems like he's like one of those guys.
Very powerful. JP. If you can find that real reason and then push that pressure point, that's how I think you can find a lot of existing leverage that you might not have seen before.
But that's when things happen and you're like, that didn't really make sense. But it's like the person was pushing different buttons, and that's something maybe we can get into on the super secret episode.
Absolutely.
But another example, which is more modern, is specifically in the basketball context, is this trade between Luka Doncic and he used to be on the Dallas Mavericks, and he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, who's an older superstar,
right,
and a few other picks and players. It didn't make sense. Luka Doncic is top 3 player in terms of production, etc. But it's one of those things where it's like you don't know what was negotiated behind the scenes. You don't know what buttons were pressed or the real reason why things were traded. Some people say it's a conspiracy, but I think there's a real world where it's like it was just how the deal was presented. Yeah. So
100%.
So I'll keep it moving here. If you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I wonder what context he would have said that in. I know J.P. Morgan was famous for going to museums, forgetting he was in a museum,
Yeah.
and saying, "Yeah, I'll take it," because he had such an expansive art collection.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just second nature to him.
Yeah, he's a big art collector.
And that definitely happened after his dad died too. But it's just an interesting one. Like, if you have to ask how much it is,
I think that's just like a rich person's flex, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like yeah, because what's also interesting is I've also heard billionaires say, like, I mind my pennies.
Yeah.
Like I look at the price tag. Like I'm not out here spending extravagantly. So it's just interesting advice.
Yeah. Money is like manure. It's not worth a thing unless you spread it around, encouraging young things to grow.
I like that.
Keep the money moving.
A very venture capitalist mindset, you know?
Yeah, keep the money moving. And also there's this idea of the velocity of money as a measure of the strength of an economy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that, especially in the context of this statement, where it's, you know, just move the money, finance projects, invest. One, you'll get a stronger return if you do that, especially intelligently and intentfully. But then two, it's the way that economies grow. It's a function of money. When it's being hoarded, it's losing value.
100%. It's also like just interesting to think of, like, he's thinking about these things at a scale that is almost unreal or unheard of today, where we talked about US Steel, his billion-dollar company. That was doing about, you know, in terms of like the business and the numbers that the business was doing, was around 7 to 8% of the entire American GDP. It's like you can't even fathom that. 10% almost 10% of the entire American GDP was this one company.
Yeah.
And so like the kind of money or the volumes that he's talking about and dealing with, I mean, that's more than Buffett.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a completely different time.
Yeah.
I saw a stat recently that Buffett had, it was a single percentile, but it was a percentage of all of the US Treasury notes in America.
Yes.
Berkshire had that. Yeah. But nonetheless, it's like somebody who is maybe 3 times as wealthy in terms of not just value and market cap, but in terms of like holding the actual US Treasury notes or holding the actual
and also influence.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan had so much influence.
Yeah, enough to go in there and say like, hey, I'm gonna loan the government some gold.
Yeah.
Okay, so then next we have capital is a part of wealth which is devoted to obtaining further wealth.
Interesting. Okay.
Capital. It's our resources. It's what goes into creating wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any arguments with that.
No, I like that one. Oh, yeah.
Another one here is the wise man bridges the gap by laying out the path by means of which he can get from where he is to where he wants to go.
Yeah, I like that one too, in terms of like forging a path that might not be what other people may be expecting of you.
Yeah.
In terms of a deal, in terms of leveraging stuff, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go and push this button over here. It's like I didn't even think about that. Yeah. But when you do that, okay, now it makes me more inclined to make a deal. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of just subtle wisdom in that statement. And it makes me think, just off the top of my head, it makes me think about how important it is to be able to imagine where you want to go so you can build that bridge to actually get there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are building bridges to nowhere.
Yeah. Because
they don't envision what it's going to look like on the other side of that tunnel or on the other side of that, chasm or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's I mean, we also talked a little bit about asking yourself the whys. Mm-hmm. Really diving into where you're going and who you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
If you know your whys, you'll be wise.
Ooh, that's good.
So, yeah, man, I think J.P. Morgan's an interesting character. There's definitely so much history around him. His influence on the American economy, the world economy is, I mean, it's there. It's, the proof in the pudding.
And we have those laws now because of a lot of things that he did.
Mm-hmm. But I think there's also just so much to be learned from just the way that he conducted himself and the way that he moved himself. He seems like somebody that, like, if he knew what he was looking for, and he was very conscious of that, and he was also groomed at an early age to be able to be comfortable in these environments and with these transactions.
Yeah, I mean, and that's evident now. Like we said at the beginning, J.P. Morgan Chase is still around, whereas like the Vanderbilts, since that generation where they were both competing, they've lost all their money.
Yeah, and you know Anderson Cooper?
I do. He's a descendant.
Yeah. Apparently his mom coming up was like, look, all that money's gone.
Exactly.
So
you can see
get any ideas.
You can see how powerful it is, to keep that in the family and keep that education going, that legacy that his father had, that he then had for his son. People like the Vanderbilts just didn't have it.
Exactly. Cool. Shall we move on to the super secret?
I think so. This was a great week.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll see y'all next week for another Founder.
Peace.